Hello, my name is Matt Eicheldinger. I am a teacher and I'm also an author.
Hi there, I'm Gianna from Family Fun Twin Cities, and this is the Let's Go Do Fun Stuff show. Matt is here to talk to us about stuff. He's written how many books?
I've written, 3 are out, but I've written 5.
Right.
And there's going to be, by 2026, probably 10.
10?
Yeah.
Oh, we got lots to talk about. And talk about it we will. We are really excited to have Matt Eicheldinger back for January. We thought he was the perfect way to start the new year. So sit back, relax, enjoy this new format of a podcast and not a video, and we will see you on the other end. Okay, here we go. We also got my dogs with us, so this is interesting. This is mine. Oh, we got it. Okay. You want to sit? Good job, Gemini. Okay, so let's talk about. So since the last time we've talked to you. Nora came out.
No.
The Sun Nora ate, or
The Day Nora Ate the Sun
That's
came
a-
out, which is the sequel to the first book.
right? So that's come out.
Yep.
Which looks similar to the first one. Like it's like the sequel. So it's like the same characters.
Same characters, silly plots, a lot of antics, a lot of lessons though too.
Still based on some things in your life.
Not nearly as much as the first one. It's probably like the first book was like 85% autobiographical. This one's probably like 20%.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Then came out Sticky Notes.
Yeah.
And that was like, I don't know, the one I was waiting for.
Same here.
Okay.
Same here. It's weird to have like a social media presence and not have a book yet about what I do.
Yeah.
So I've been waiting for that one for a while.
Yeah. So there were two stories. Well, two stories that made me cry. The first one was the green jacket because she missed her dad, and I just lost my dad. So I was like, oh, and like I closed the book and walked away, right? Like, and then a couple of stories later, maybe more than a couple, there was another one. I don't remember what it was, but I literally shut the book and said, "Dang, Eicheldinger!"
Really?
Yes.
Well, good. My hope is that the book makes people smile, but I've heard that there's been some tears. So
Yes.
that's a good thing too.
Yes. Also, the rolling dice zooming, that I was like, oh good, he put this one in here.
I did, yeah. That's the one that people say I should have a t-shirt for, but I'm not one to make merch, so we'll see.
Maybe
someday.
somebody else will make it for you.
There we go.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah. Okay, so and how do you say the girl's name that you had
That passed away.
Yeah.
That story is true, and I use the real name, and her name is Tapestry.
Tapestry. That's so pretty.
Very pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one too. And also, like one of the last stories, or maybe the last story, one of the last stories, not the last story, is about a girl named Gianna. Though it's fake name, I like to claim that one completely as my own, because honestly, I was like, oh, this is literally me.
It's a good happy coincidence.
I would have broken something, and I would have screamed at the top of my lungs to get everybody's attention. And not screamed, like I had this, Anyway, okay, so those are 3 books. You said you're going to have 10 in a couple of years.
That's the hope, yeah.
Okay.
So there's 2 more coming out in the summer and fall, and the one is the 3rd book in the Matt Sprout series.
Okay, what's that one?
That one's called Matt Sprouts and the Chompy Wompy Wars.
Oh, awesome.
Not Chompy Wompy, that was the original title. Matt Sprouts and the Search for the Chompy Wompers. Okay. And that one is one of my favorite works to date. It's a pretty silly story. And then the next book has the best title I've come up with, which is called Holes in My Underwear. And that's illustrated poetry for kids. Very much like Shel Silverstein.
Sweet. Have you had a couple, have you posted a couple of your poems on Instagram?
Yeah, just to see if they resonate with adults too, because it's very much for kids, but my hope is that it's like Shel Silverstein.
Yeah.
You read it and you go, oh, or maybe cry.
Right.
I don't know, but it's been fun to gauge how it's going to be received by adults. But it's not ready for pre-order, so I'm just not talking about it much.
Right,
yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so that would be book number 4 and 5, and then 5 more you're working on, developing?
I'll announce what they are later, but I just signed a 3-book deal for a new middle grade series that's not Matt Sprouts. So that's really exciting.
That's really exciting.
And the only thing I can say, it's like an apocalyptic series. And so it's very much different from what I've been writing, but I'm really excited.
That's
really
awesome.
excited, yeah.
So that's 3 books. So there's 2 more to come.
I hope. So that one I have a deal for. The other one that I don't have a deal for, but is being actively pitched, is my first graphic novel. So that'll be really cool.
That'll
too.
be awesome.
Yeah, so I can't say anything about it yet.
Yeah.
But,
Do you know who Steven Shaskan is?
it sounds familiar.
He's
but I don't.
another local author.
Okay.
He's written the Taco Pizza books.
Oh my God! Yes, I know his wife Trisha.
Yeah, Trisha. Yeah. Oh, I love Trisha. But they've written a graphic novel how-to book for kids.
Oh really?
Like how to write graphic novels.
So she is one of the first people that I met as an author in the Twin Cities.
Okay.
So she invited me to a middle grade literature group,
Mm-hmm.
and I've since seen her at multiple things. I haven't met her husband yet, but I know that they're both like prolific children's authors.
Yes.
Like they've been doing this a while as a team.
Yeah.
And separately, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like,
and they started as preschool teachers. So like they're kind of similar to you. Like
Yeah.
they started immersed in it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're sitting here. Where are we? Where'd you bring us today?
So I brought you to 9 Mile Creek, which is based in Bloomington, but also runs through the heart of the Twin Cities too. It goes up through Minnetonka, all the way up there. I think it's called 9 Mile because that's how long it is, but I can't verify.
And it might have changed since it was named.
Yeah, so this is where I come to walk. I'll take my kids here in the winter and we'll break ice, and it's also a good place to take a break from writing too. It's so close to my house. I can
Do you walk from your house or no?
I'll
Not
drive,
quite that.
yeah.
Okay.
But when I run, I can run from my house to get down here.
Yeah, we've walked on like paved paths, and we've walked on like gravel paths, and I saw some more like maybe they weren't supposed to be paths.
It's a great. If you've never been to 9 Mile Creek, you should, because it takes you all the way to the Minnesota River, and that turns into something called the Minnesota River Bottoms Trail, which can go all the way from 35W all the way to 169.
Oh,
Just
wow.
Follow the river.
Oh wow.
It's beautiful.
Where are we on, like, sitting here in Bloomington? Where are we currently? Because we're just off of 98th, basically.
Yep, we're off of 98th and Old Shakopee, and that's one of the entrances. Moore Park is probably the best entrance if you are not familiar with the area. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Is this the beginning or middle?
Of 9 Mile Creek, in the Bloomington location, this is the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
This conversation kind of jumped all over the place, which I love. But just so you know, we went from 9 Mile Creek and now we're going on a book tour. So hang on to your hats. Matt went on his first book tour, and it was how many cities?
It was 3 cities in 3 days, which
Okay.
didn't sound like a lot. I told my publisher, you can send me more places, and they said, you're going to want a break. And they were right. Turns out traveling every day is exhausting. I've never really traveled that much. So waking up to get on the plane, to get to the city, to take the Uber, to then wait an hour, to then do the event, and then repeat it all the next day was a lot. But I went to Salt Lake City, Dallas, and Chicago. And then I did like 3 local events on the tail end and the beginning of that too.
Yeah.
So it was a lot, and that was for the release of Sticky Notes. But what was cool about that is it was a book for adults, so adults showed up to my event instead of just kids, and it was fun to connect with people who see me online and know, like, oh, you read my stuff not in Minnesota. It's very validating. Yeah, especially when you hear how the work has affected others. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because social media can start to feel fake after a while.
Yeah.
And so to meet people who have commented or shared videos, that was pretty unique.
Yeah, that's really cool. And to know they're not just your neighbor. Not that that's bad. You love your neighbors.
Yes.
And you wouldn't want to choose other neighbors. But when it's more than your neighbors, it's pretty cool.
Oh, I was in Quincy, Massachusetts.
That's right.
Yeah,
What was that? Was that for work?
Yep, it was. So I went to Quincy, Massachusetts, which is it's south of Boston. And I've never been there either. And I did I keynoted like a district kickoff event.
Oh, that's cool.
For a school. So that was my biggest audience to date. That was about 1,000 people.
That's sweet.
It was. And usually I'm not intimidated, but when you're in an auditorium and all those chairs are facing the same direction,
And they're full of people?
they're full of people waiting to see what you have to say. But it was great, and especially because it's my clientele, it's teachers, so I can teacher talk all day.
Yeah.
And then I also did some breakout sessions after, so I talked about how to get a book published, because many teachers have great ideas for books. And then I did some other just professional development classes on like note-taking and stuff like that for kids.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that they can teach their kids, like, this is okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I rarely get to teach adults.
Yeah.
So it's nice to not be interrupted.
Yeah.
Like, have some questions that are on topic.
Right.
But yeah, it was a really cool experience.
I think you had mentioned something about driving.
Oh yes, if you've never been to Boston, I didn't realize that underneath Boston is just tunnels and tunnels. Have you been to Boston?
When I was 3.
Okay, so when you get out of the airport, you're immediately put into a tunnel, and you're in the tunnel for miles and miles, and your phone doesn't work. And so I thought I was taking the right interstate, and then all of a sudden I was heading the opposite direction. Then I ended up in downtown Boston, which was like, felt like New York City, just people kind of walking wherever they want.
Yeah.
It was very intimidating as like a country boy,
Yeah.
even though I've lived in the metropolitan area for a while. But I made it.
Yeah. We were in California at the end of the summer it was my daughter Bryn, who is a senior, and we were visiting a college out there. And I was glad she was there, because I'm like, we were in LA area, and I'm like, I don't know, I need your help. And she goes, Mom, you're fine, you can move. I'm like, no, that's not what I need. I need you to tell me if I'm in the correct lane, because there's like 9. And then I would just stay in the right lane and stay there, because I'm like, well, then I'll know I'll be able to get off.
Yeah.
Except then they add on lanes, and then those lanes take off, and then the one you're in, suddenly you're exiting. You're like, I don't want to exit yet. Like,
So hard when you don't know the area.
yeah, exactly. So I can imagine it being in tunnels.
Yes, and in dark.
Yeah.
Yes, and in a car you don't know how to drive properly.
Right.
I got honked at a lot.
Okay, so you have 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things, I know last time you told me that you guys like to go camping. What are some other things that you guys like to do in Minnesota? Like, do you have a favorite location you like to just chill out at, like 9 Mile? Or a favorite restaurant, or a favorite anything?
Yeah, so when we're not camping, we love to hike. And so we try and find as many places in the metro area that make you feel like you're not in a metro area.
Yeah.
So that means a lot of the Three River Park District parks.
Yeah.
So we'll go, I'm trying to think of the one we go to most often. It's probably Highland Park and Bloomington.
Highland Lake Park, right?
Highland Lake Park, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think there is a Highland.
In
that's
St.
different.
Paul area.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Highland Lake Park is beautiful. You can really get isolated out there.
Yeah.
Carver County, out that direction.
Is that down? It's
By Victoria.
southwest, right?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
You're right. Yep.
Yep.
I've also been exploring the Victoria.
That little town?
Yeah, little town, but amazing trails out that direction.
Yeah, the Lowry Nature Center and Carver, the Three Rivers Park, that's Carver something. Yeah, those are awesome.
As far as restaurants, we're trying just to do bakeries. So
Oh.
we've been trying, don't go on a Sunday. We learned you can't go to a bakery on a Sunday because all of the churches let out, and then you can't find a spot.
Right.
So I'm trying
Like to eat a meal, like
just a
or
treat,
just okay,
treat
yeah.
and coffee. There's a couple in Richfield that we've gone to, but I just can't remember the names.
That's not helpful.
No, but I will remember them and send them your way so you can link them, because they've been great. Yeah.
And you can ask your wife too.
Yes.
She
might remember.
yeah, she might
Yeah.
remember. We are so blessed here in the Twin Cities to have so many great places that are not city-based, but then also we can drive just a few minutes and we have like all the culture that we could possibly ask for. We had a great time talking about what to do in the Twin Cities, but then we talked about stories. What kind of stories do you think the people of Minnesota, I don't want to use the word need, but I guess need to hear, need to understand, need to experience?
I've heard that. I've been using this quote a lot lately. That's not mine. I wish it was. But Jason Reynolds is another author.
Have you met him?
I have not, but I can't wait till I do, because I know it'll happen someday.
Yeah.
Our lives will overlap.
Yeah.
He has this amazing quote that says, stories are baked in empathy machines. And I think that's the thing that we need to do most in Minnesota and across the country, is you need to be able to share your story and listen to others and see where you see yourself in that story. And not that everyone needs to have a close connection with each other, but when you at least have a moment to listen to people, you can understand why they think the way they do and maybe why you think the way you do. And that's a good starting point for any conversation, is just to listen and hear where people have been and where they're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listening is not easy.
No, it's not, especially post-election. Is everyone's a little heightened, and so to kind of reground yourself in stories that matter and stories that represent who you are, that's important.
Yeah.
And so the stories that I want to continue to tell are stories where I tell the story and then hopefully you take away something from it. I don't like to preach, and so I'm not one to like always share a story and say what you should learn from it. I hope people take away something that is important to them. Yeah.
That makes sense. What are some of your favorite stories? Like, or authors?
Well, I don't read that much, which is funny because I'm an author. I probably should.
And also, before an author, you were a
language arts
yeah.
teacher. Yeah, so even as a teacher, I would only read the first 2 chapters of books so that I knew enough to talk to kids about them. But as far as reading whole books, it's pretty rare.
Okay.
I actually read more web comics and not comic books, but I find that comics usually offer what a story does, is just a quick little insight into humanity.
Yeah.
And so I've always been a fan of Bill Watterson, the
yeah,
author
Calvin
of
and Hobbes.
Calvin Hobbes. I still will occasionally open those. And I read The Giver each year by Lois Lowry. It's another of my favorites. But really, I enjoy thinking about my own thinking. So anytime that I can read someone else's insight into a situation, then I like to try and think of how that applies to me and how I might tell a story that reflects the same lesson. Those are my favorite types of stories, are the ones that get me thinking about my own thinking.
Yeah. Huh. That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, well, I kind of have to. I've had to really like fortify my own mind because as a teacher, you're surrounded with people all day, and now I'm by myself all day.
Yeah.
So I do think about my own thinking, not just in storytelling, but you know, I take in a lot of content each day since I'm on social media. I have to really be aware of how those stories might be influencing me, and how I want to maybe retell some of those things. But yeah, it can be a mind cluster some days.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I really like things like this where I get to see a human and chat. It's I crave it.
I almost forgot to ask this last question, but I'm so glad I remembered and we were able to talk about it. So, you went to like the American Library Association or something like this spring, right?
Yeah, I did.
And you met this, okay, he's a real person with the coolest hair ever and the sweetest personality, literally, named Michael
Threets.
It's just
Threets?
I think it's Threets.
Yeah. So Michael and I started social media about the same time, and he's a librarian, or was at the time, in California. And we were doing the same thing, basically. I was sharing stories from the classroom, and he was sharing them from the library. So we would message each other every once in a while, and I had more followers than him for like just a brief moment, and then he took off nationally. So he got millions of followers, and now he works for PBS. He's on the front cover of School Library Journal.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he's everywhere. And I finally got a chance to meet him in person at the ALA, although I did have to wait in a line because the guy cannot walk more than a few steps without getting noticed. He has a very nice afro.
I love his hair.
Yeah, so you can spot him easily, I'll say that. But it's cool to see how people really appreciate the messages that he gives. And so it's cool to see him continuing to spread that message. We only got to talk for like 3 minutes. So hopefully we can connect again. But we share a lot on social media and encourage each other. Because we're both still in the same space. Doing your own thing, and it doesn't conflict. It actually like builds into each other. It very much aligns, And so, you know, what I hope for him is that, you know, whatever his 5-year plan is, he just gets to continue doing what he wants to do. Because I'm not sure what sort of longevity there is for PBS or
Right. That's I'm really excited for him and for you, and now literally I am 1 degree away from him.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great. Matt is so uplifting and encouraging, and I hope you guys walked away from this conversation with hope for 2025. We'll see you on the next episode of Let's Go Do Fun Stuff. Gemini, I know, very exciting to see a puppy. That probably looks a little like Monty.
Yeah, that looks like an English lab. Excuse me.
Gypsy.
Sorry about that.
I didn't think you were going to do that. Okay, hold on. Okay, so you had told me that you had something come up that you were like, I need to tell you this, but we'll wait for the interview. Do you remember that story?
I don't.
Oh, no!
Maybe it was the 3-book deal.
Maybe because that's brand new.
Yep.
So you can introduce yourself. Okay, start.
Just start?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, Gemini. Yeah.
Talk about, I also did my first book tour.
Yes, talk about your book tour. That would be great. Okay. Do you remember anything I was going to ask you?
No.